What's up, Pirates Nation? Oliver Nissi and Leverett Ball, Team Insiders. We're in Pirates Studio for episode 4 of Pirates Weekly. Leverett, we're back in studio. How's it feel? One, how's it feel to be back in studio? And two, we have a new sponsor in Bud Light, and we introduced them in episode 3, but like we were saying off the air, it just feels more natural to introduce Bud Light, especially with the cans in front of us.
Yes.
So, yeah, how do you feel about Bud Light, again, as new sponsor, and how do you feel about being back in studio?
Yeah, so it's nice to be back in studio. Obviously, we did the last episode over Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
There was a blizzard going on. The roads weren't in the best condition. And, Oliver doesn't have much confidence in my driving abilities in a snowstorm.
No,
so
I
we
do
said
not.
we should do the episode over Zoom, which, lots of people have been doing their jobs over Zoom in 2020 because of the pandemic. We got a little taste of that. Obviously, it's fun to be back recording in person and see everyone at the office. But also, we have a new sponsor, like you said. This is our second episode, but first that we've done in person with the Bud Light sponsorship. Oliver, personally, I don't know what the higher-ups at Bud Light see in the two of us, but I'm honored nonetheless. But clearly I'm honored. But what does this Bud Light sponsorship mean to you?
It means everything.
Yeah.
This is a show, a little backstory. This is something that I always wanted for the Pirates. I'm still fairly new to the Pirates. I started in September, but and pretty much like right from the get-go, we got in contact. This is just, when I joined the Pirates, this is something that I wanted to put together. You reached out. This is something that you wanted. And, we got the first 2 episodes underway, and that was awesome in the IFL Team Showcase, going over all the other teams. But, yeah, it just feels so official now, and it feels like the show is growing kind of at an exponential rate. I don't know who's going to be able to slow us down.
Yeah, you're right. And like you said, we have the weekly show going. Now we have a sponsor in Bud Light. You said it's everything. I'm going to quote the singer Avril Lavigne, everything that I wanted, a show and a sponsor. Let's go. And obviously we have some football to talk about tonight. We can't just talk about Bud Light the entire time. But I will say this. The coolest thing about Bud Light is how low it is in calories. If you drink a lot of the calorie-heavy beers, you start to get a little bit of a dad bod going and you feel self-conscious like when you're sunbathing. Bud Light, like I said, low in calories, so you can drink it and have fun and party, but keep your weight down. And, if you want to know how to get a chiseled physique, like my co-host Oliver here, the secret is Bud Light. Bud Light is actually his go-to beer. Am I wrong?
No, you are right. And I was going to say, when you're talking about drinking and you earn a dad bod,
yes,
that comes from Bud Light's cousin in Budweiser.
Right.
And, Budweiser is the king of beers, but Bud Light is right there. And, just getting back to how Bud Light is it's not only our new sponsor, but in the same way Pirates Weekly is presented by Bud Light. It's another way to say it. It rolls off the tongue pretty nice. So we could, like Leverett said, we could sit here and talk Bud Light all night with you folks, but we are going to be talking football.
I have one final comment, though,
Go
about
ahead.
Bud Light. So this is an adult beverage. So while it's the best beer around, it's a beer for adults. So if you're under the age of 21, don't even think about drinking one. I don't want to hear excuses about how it's cool to break the rules. Don't even think about it. Also, for those of you who are of age, please enjoy this beverage responsibly. So don't drink too many of them at once. Don't act like a hooligan. And also, remember to take Uber instead of driving when you get done turning up. So words of wisdom. Ready to talk some football?
Absolutely. Leverett, that was very nice. And that's the most important thing about drinking is that you have to do it responsibly.
Yes.
And this show, we are doing this show responsibly, and we are going to roll right into it.
Let's do it.
Starting on the defensive line in the defensive breakdown this episode on Pirates Weekly, Oliver Nissi and Leverett Ball. We're going to talk J.D. Griggs. J.D. Griggs is back with the Pirates for his 3rd season. Griggs, in the first 2 seasons with the Pirates, was named to all-conference first team. And then in a season before that, in 2017, Griggs actually played in the IFL for the Spokane Empire. And Leverett, how do you feel about Griggs transitioning back to the IFL, a league that he's already been a part of?
Well, the last time he played in the IFL, like you said, was in 2017 for Spokane. He actually led not only his team, but the entire league in sacks that season. So the last time we saw him in the IFL, he dominated. Probably IFL quarterbacks who he hit were hoping he'd never return to the league. But then, he moved over to the Pirates, and he's now the franchise all-time leader in sacks. So, he's a guy who gets in the backfield consistently, and, he brings a lot of different things to the table because, he has the size and strength to just overpower linemen. But when he goes up against bigger, stronger linemen, he's also, he has quick feet. He has a good spin move. He has a good swim move. He can do a lot of different things to get around defensive linemen and uses athleticism to dodge them. So he's just a very, very hard guy to block one-on-one. You have to sometimes put an extra body on him. And if you don't, he's going to, cause problems for your quarterbacks. So, again, a guy who the Pirates are happy to have suiting up this season, a guy who opposing quarterbacks probably wish was not suiting up.
Yeah, and Leverett, I mean, last episode we talked a lot of NFL comparisons, and that was fun. And, when we talk about Griggs and we mentioned that he comes over to the Pirates in 2018, it's a big free agent splash signing, and those are really exciting. And I was trying to come up with a comparison. I mean, a couple names that went through my head, and I know that I'm giving J.D. Griggs a lot of praise here, but Reggie White, in the middle of his NFL career, he left the Green Bay Packers for the Eagles, or it might have been the other way around. And then Richard Seymour for the Patriots.
Yes.
He started his career at the Patriots and was fantastic. Or he might have got traded.
He left. He had contract disputes with Belichick, didn't he?
I'm not sure. It was either a contract. It was either free agency or a trade, but nonetheless, it was a huge offseason pickup. And in this case, it's that way for the Pirates, and they are just reaping the benefits.
Oh yeah, and you know what? Seymour didn't stay around with the Patriots. They couldn't, come eye to eye with him. Maybe the Pirates, another team in the New England area, will learn a lesson from that and make an effort to keep Griggs around because he's been such a force on the defensive line. And, also I think this season they're going to rely on his leadership because they have a familiar face like Griggs, but then they also have some new additions. At the defensive line position, there's some guys who are coming over from other teams. They have some guys just out of college who haven't played professional football at all. So as a guy who's been there, done that, at the defensive end position for the Pirates, they're going to rely, like I said, on his leadership, both as a vocal leader and by example.
Yeah, and one more thing on Griggs is it feels like he's just getting better with age.
Yes.
And sometimes you see that in some players. Mm-hmm. And with Griggs, I mean, we said it in 2017. 2017, 18, and 19, the last 3 seasons he's been on the field, he's been a beast. I mean, there's arguably been no one better in professional indoor football than J.D. Griggs on the defensive line, a pass rusher. But not a lot of people know how his career started. And in college, he started at the University of Iowa, a Big Ten school, a huge football school, one of those stadiums that hosts 60, 70,000, the Hawkeyes in Iowa. I mean, it doesn't get much bigger than Iowa Hawkeye football in Iowa. Then he transitioned to a junior college. So he went from huge stadiums, fans at that school, and then he went to a junior college in Long Island, New York. And then he finished his college career at the University of Akron, which I believe is Division I, but a smaller school.
Right.
But still, it's bigger than the junior college. So, I mean, we mentioned Spokane. I know off the air we were also talking about how he spent time in the IFL with the Colorado Crush.
Yes.
So he's literally been all over the map. And to my original point, I mean, he's just been getting better as he ages.
Yes, he has definitely gotten better with age, which is not a common thing in the world of professional football with all the injuries and abuse your body takes over the years. A lot of guys regress quickly. He has gotten better with age. He's continued to become more and more of a force up front. He is aged. He's gotten better with age, like they say, just like fine Bud Light. Isn't that how it goes?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Shout out to Bud Light.
Of course.
Pirates Weekly now presented by Bud Light.
Bud Light and cheese.
J.D. Griggs, the first defensive lineman the Pirates have brought back. We got a long way to go. There's been 5 defensive linemen that the Pirates have brought back. We're going to move on to R.J. Roberts now. And Roberts, like Griggs, has spent parts of 3 seasons with the Pirates. And in Roberts' first season in 2018, he had 7.5 sacks in just 4 games. So we mentioned how Griggs is 250 pounds and 6'6". He stands at 6'6", but Roberts 6'4", 260 pounds. So they're very similar. And Roberts, I mean, just going back and watching tape, and Griggs, you see Griggs on one side, Roberts on the other side. But I'd say the most fascinating thing about Roberts is that he's entering his 10th career professional season. So he is the veteran among all veterans on this team.
Oh yeah, and I mean he's played 3, or this will be his 3rd season with the Pirates, but like you said, 10 years in professional football. That's uncommon for a couple of reasons. For one, I mean he's a defensive lineman. That's a position at which your body really, really gets beat up, and it's hard to have a long career. A lot of the guys you see having long careers are usually quarterbacks or specialists. They don't get hit as often as players at other positions. So for a defensive lineman, that's unusual. Also, it's unusual for someone not playing in the NFL. In the indoor game, a lot of guys will play 3 or 4 years and then either advance to other leagues like the NFL or the CFL, or they'll just retire altogether. So to be going into his 10th year, going to 10th year and suiting up for an IFL team, that's unusual. But I think that shows just the passion he has for the game. In the IFL, you don't have ridiculously lucrative endorsement deals, and you don't get paid millions of dollars each season. But you still have to put in the same amount of work in the weight room and in practice that NFL players do. So to be doing it for 10 years, that shows how much he loves the game, and he's been around the block. Obviously 10 years of pro football, playing indoor, playing some CFL, and another guy who they can lean on for veteran leadership.
Yeah, and the Pirates are a team that, most Pirates Nation fans know this, that the Pirates are still seeking their first championship. They might have a longer leash than some other teams because, they're still fairly new, but don't get it wrong. The Pirates players, like Roberts, who has been a pro for so long, he's hungry for a championship, and he actually won a championship in the CFL in 2015.
Yes.
With the Edmonton Eskimos. So a guy who has been there, done that, and that should be very helpful.
Safe to say he did better in the CFL than Johnny Manziel. Sorry to Johnny Football if you're listening.
Yeah. Johnny Football was one of the most electric players I've ever seen in college football. And, and then he was a first-round draft pick, and just expectations seemed to be a little too high.
Yes.
So we talked Griggs, we talked Roberts, and the third defensive lineman, Leverett, that the Pirates have signed is Johanna Gaffan. A lot of us here in Pirates headquarters, we call him Yo-Yo. It's a pretty cool nickname. And Gaffan, unlike Griggs and Roberts, who have plenty of professional football experience, Gaffan is, 2021, next season, is going to be his first year of professional football experience.
Yeah, and, it's interesting because the Pirates have so many guys on their roster. When it comes to new players, so many guys have either played in the NFL or the CFL or other indoor teams. He's one of the pure rookies. His no prior professional football experience. Obviously played at a top program in Wyoming, was very well coached there, and he has great size. And the Pirates on the defensive line, they have a lot of pure defensive ends. Athletic guys who can make moves and get to the quarterback, but in his case, he's a guy who can occupy space. And so not only can he rush the passer, but he can occupy space and shield other defensive players from blockers and help them get to the football, which is huge. I think, with a guy like him, with the physical talent he has, but also being a bit raw as a pure rookie, I think he's a guy who can really benefit from some of the veteran leadership on the defensive line that we've talked about, with Griggs and some of the other veteran defensive linemen. And for him, since he has the talent he needs, he has what you can't teach, but he can be taught the nuances of the professional game. Obviously at the pro level, the speed of play is higher than at the college level, but also, playing in college, playing traditional outdoor football on a 100-yard field, it's going to be a little bit of adjustment, just adjusting to not only the speed of play and level of competition, but also the style of play. So I think he's a guy with a lot of potential who will be a little bit raw coming in, but with the leadership the Pirates have up front, I think he'll be okay. I think he'll be mentored in the way he needs to be mentored and get the coaching he needs. And, he's going to be a force to go up against. And like you said, he's a big dude. I would not want to get in his way.
Well, I think the word that you were alluding to is culture shock with Gaffon. And this is something that he's been accustomed to his entire life. Gaffon was actually born in Africa. And then he grew up in Nebraska, where he currently lives now. Like you said, he played college football at the University of Wyoming. And now he's going to be coming over to the East Coast with the Massachusetts Pirates. When the season starts, he'll be living here.
Yeah.
So, he's been in all different parts of not only this country, but the world. And Gaffon, from Griggs, from Roberts, from some of these other defensive linemen, I feel like he's going to be a plug and play. I feel like he's just going to be soaking up all this new learning and experience. And he's definitely someone who has something to prove and is going to have a high motor.
Yeah, and, obviously at the D-line position, that's the position, or one of the positions where you need to be, aggressive and have that high motor. For a quarterback, for example, obviously those guys are competitors, but you also have to be under control and poised. The D-line, whether you're a D-lineman or a linebacker, you need to have that mean streak at all times. So, like you said, he's a high motor player. I think that's a good fit for his position and also for this defense. The Pirates defensively, they're not necessarily the most flashy defense in the IFL, but they're probably the meanest as far as just having big bodies up front, being physical, dominating the line of scrimmage, hitting people in the mouth. So I think he's a good fit specifically for this defense. Like you said, with his high motor, with his aggressive style of play, his ability to deliver hits. It's going to be scary if they can get the entire defensive line clicking, get everyone we've mentioned playing well at the same time. It is going to be a horrifying season to be an opposing IFL quarterback.
The fourth defensive lineman that the Pirates have signed is Reggie Howard. And Reggie Howard most recently played in the XFL earlier this year. And he also played college football at the University of Toledo in Ohio. And Leverett, like J.D. Griggs, Reggie Howard played junior college football, and that he played that in the state of Kansas. So perhaps J.D. Griggs can relate with Howard on that level, as they both been down a similar path.
Yeah, maybe they can bond, like you said, over the similar experiences. But talk about another great addition, to the Pirates defensive line. And he actually spent some time. He got a brief taste of the NFL going to training camp with the, at the time, San Diego Chargers. They're now called the LA Chargers, obviously. And additionally also, spent some time in the XFL. But, with him, as a guy who briefly got a taste of the NFL and then was cut and had that taken away from him, as someone who was cut in training camp and did not make the 53-man roster, I think that's going to make him hungry. When you feel like your dream is right at your fingertips and then you have it taken away from you, so suddenly, that's something that can be incredibly motivating. So I think he's going to, like we talked about with some of the other guys on the D-line for the Pirates, play with a mean streak this season, and he's determined to get back to the NFL. You think getting a brief taste of the NFL like that he wouldn't want to get back? He wants to get back, so he wants to put up some tape in the IFL of him just absolutely dominating so that he can get back to the next level and catch someone's eye, among NFL scouts. And
Yeah.
I think if he can make that move and get back to the NFL, he'll definitely have a celebratory Bud Light.
Yeah, he sure will. And he definitely must have picked up a thing or two from Joey Bosa, who is a beast on the Chargers defensive line. And at the time, Bosa must have been a rookie at the time, because I believe Bosa was selected in 2016 or 2017 out of Ohio State. But nonetheless, Reggie Howard, one of the latest additions to the Massachusetts Pirates, a defensive lineman signed by the Pirates this offseason. And Leverett, now we're going to move on to Willie Yarberry, the last defensive lineman on this roster at the moment. And Yarberry is coming into this 2021 season, perhaps he's feeling the most hot because in November, this past month, he played in the Spring League. And in episode 3, we talked about how he went up against E.J. Price, one of the newest signed offensive linemen for the Pirates. But Yarberry went off in the Spring League. He had, in one game, Leverett, I mean, I watched the tape, and Pirates fans, you can go back on our social media accounts and watch this performance by Willie Yarberry. I also believe it's on our YouTube channel, but he had an interception, a fumble recovery, a couple sacks. It must feel pretty good coming into your second season in Yarberry. It's going to be his second season with the Pirates in 2021, coming in as hot as he is.
Yeah, and especially, with the Pirates last season being canceled, I think it was huge for him to get those reps in the Spring League. Not to mention the fact that he played incredibly well, like you said. That also has to be huge for his confidence. When he was in the Spring League, like you said, he went up against some really tough competition, and he was able to make some big plays with a quarterback sack, a fumble recovery, even an interception. And again, we talk about guys on this team who could get to the next level. For him, I think it proves more for him to have had success against some of the top competition, and guys who are legitimate NFL prospects, than it would be for him to play well at any other level. NFL scouts want to see how you match up against the top guys, and I mean, he's shown that he can handle it. So he's another guy, I think, who's going to try and really put some impressive content on tape of him just being an absolute terror for the Pirates this coming season, so that he can eventually advance beyond the indoor game. And maybe he's another guy who we could see playing in the NFL in the next couple of years.
Yeah, and he's definitely progressing at the right rate. He performed very well in college as well. I want to point that out. He went to Wake Forest in North Carolina, and he was a captain there. He appeared in several bowl games as a Wake Forest Demon Deacon. So there you have it. We gave you the 5 defensive linemen the Pirates have signed for 2021. And Leverett, the audience might be scratching their heads because they thought there was one more, and they are right. But I'm breaking news to the audience tonight, and TJ Barnes, who was originally signed in September, a defensive lineman for the Pirates, he has announced his retirement. It happened a couple days ago. I'm breaking the news to you Pirates fans, for those who do not know. And Leverett, he's going to be missed.
Definitely. I mean, first of all, he was an incredible talent. And, with the size he brought to the table as a 340-pounder, I mean, he was going to be a force for the Pirates in the middle. Middle of their defensive line this coming season. He was going to be a nightmare for opposing offensive linemen to go up against. But he had to do what was best for him and his family. And, in the world of professional football, guys do not have a long professional life expectancy. It's not like some jobs where you can work in the same office for 30 years in a row. I mean, professional football players typically do not have, particularly long careers. Professional football or football at any level just beats up on your body so much. It's such a grind. It's so taxing, and everyone eventually has to move on. Obviously we would have loved to see him crushing opposing quarterbacks this coming season, but we wish him all the best, and we hope he crushes it in whatever he decides to do next, whether it's coaching, broadcasting, something outside of football, whatever he wants to do.
Yeah, and especially at that position, the defensive line. I mean, as soon as the ball is snapped, I mean, you're making contact.
Oh yeah.
So it's not like
you get hit every play.
Yeah, it's not like you're a wide receiver where you have, or on most plays, you have a little bit of separation. You can kind of dance your way through a route,
Yes.
But and then like a quarterback too. I mean, I know they get hit a good amount, but it's
right.
Just the offense, defensive linemen. I mean, they're getting hit pretty much exactly when the ball is snapped. But TJ Barnes, we wish you the best. And Leverett, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be talking linebackers. Leverett Ball, Oliver Nissi, Episode 4 of Pirates Weekly, presented by Bud Light. Welcome back into Pirates Weekly, Oliver Nissi and Leverett Ball. And we're talking linebackers now on Episode 4, the defensive breakdown. And Leverett, we have a brand new linebacker to tell Pirates Nation about. The newest signed Pirates player, his name is Martrell Spate. And he is a linebacker, like I said, 6 feet, 243 pounds. And Leverett, this is a guy who's got a standard stocky kind of linebacker for his size.
Yeah, I mean, this, like you said, he has that typical linebacker build, and he's going to be a hard hitter in the middle of the defense for the Pirates this coming season at the linebacker position. But the cool thing about him, this is a guy who has extensive NFL experience. He was initially a fifth-round pick by the Redskins, but he has played 37 games in total at the NFL level. And, that's uncommon in the IFL. Now, there are a lot of guys in the IFL, at least half, if not more, who have some type of NFL experience on their resumes. But a lot of them are guys who were, training camp players, got cut before the season started, or guys who were practice squad players, or guys who maybe got called up, to the active roster for a few games and went back and forth between the active roster and the practice squad. But like I said, he's a guy who has extensive experience in the NFL, and I think that experience is going to pay dividends for him now moving over to the IFL. He's learned things about the game that maybe some of the younger players on the Pirates roster have not learned, and I think he's going to be a force. And talk about a great addition. He's really going to bring a lot to the table for the Pirates defensively.
Yeah, you said great addition. I'll say impressive addition.
Yes.
This guy, like you said, 37 career NFL games. I'll throw you a quick trivia question, Leverett. Do you know which Pirates player has the most NFL games behind Spate?
Can you give me a hint? What position?
He's a defensive back, and we're going to get to him.
Is it
coming
Wooten?
up. It's not. It's Al Lewis-Jean, and Lewis-Jean has 9 career NFL games. Talk about Spade, who has 37, 4 times the amount of NFL.
That was going to be my second guess because it's Lewis-Jean and Wooten, the two DBs who had some NFL experience. How many games did Wooten play for the Titans?
I believe he played in 3.
Okay,
about 3 games.
Is he in third at least?
I believe he is in third.
Okay, all right. That makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, and last segment, we touched upon T.J. Barnes, and Barnes had 21 NFL career games.
Nice.
So, Spade, he almost has twice the amount as even T.J. Barnes. And T.J. Barnes, when he was still with the Pirates, he was the front runner in NFL career game experience. But getting back to Spade, I just think you said great addition. I'll say impressive signing. It's just very exciting to have a player. Spade, he's only 27 years old. He played college football at the University of Arkansas. And in one of his seasons, he played parts of 4 NFL seasons. And in one of those seasons, he had 75 combined tackles.
Wow.
So that's not too far away from 100 tackles. And if you have 100 tackles in an NFL season, that is saying something. That is, you're reaching that star Pro Bowl level.
Yeah, and obviously, look at some of the talent he went up against in the NFL. Some of the star players he's gone up against. The NFL is a league that's seen guys like Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, and even Mark Sanchez. So he's gone up against some big dogs in the NFL, and I think really no one in the indoor game is going to intimidate him. He's seen it all. He's going to come into the season with a lot of confidence, and I have to wonder if maybe for a guy like him who played for a while in the NFL, then was briefly retired. Is he just trying to play another year or two of football before hanging them up? Or is he looking to piggyback his time with the Pirates into another NFL opportunity? It's unclear. But we'll see. But, yeah, obviously it's an exciting addition. And, yeah, he's going to be a beast this season.
Yeah, and that's a great question. And, at some point down the road, I'd love to be able to ask him, us together, ask him that question. And but yeah, Martrell Spate, the newest Pirates player and the newest linebacker. And Lever, we're going to keep going with the linebackers. I want to talk about Chucky Williams next. He's been brought back for 2021. It's going to be his second season with the Pirates, a former player out of the University of Louisville. And he also spent some time. He went undrafted in the 2018 NFL draft, but he spent some time with the LA Rams. And Leverett, the Rams, back in 2018, I believe they had Marcus Peters in that defensive secondary. I believe they also had Aqib Talib. So I'm sure Williams learned a lot, back then.
Oh, yeah. And, for him, he plays kind of a hybrid role. Guys like Spate and Dantzler, they're traditional linebackers. Just, big, physical, hard-hitting guys. Williams is a physical, hard-hitting guy, but he's slightly smaller and also slightly faster than the other guys I mentioned. So he plays kind of the hybrid role that's more common in a lot of like modern, defensive schemes from, the early 2000s and into the last decade, as far as like kind of a safety linebacker hybrid. Kind of like a big safety who can drop back in coverage, but is also very physical. In the indoor game, with the amount of passing that takes place, that role is so important. He kind of is a Swiss Army knife as far as being a guy who can be physical, make hits, take on blockers, but also both drop back in pass coverage and rush the passer. So, he's someone who's going to be a lot of fun to watch this season.
Yeah, and when you're talking about, that hybrid player, and, we're the Massachusetts Pirates. We are New England's only professional indoor football team. Some people still like to call it arena football. I do as well. But, we mentioned it plenty of times, the Patriots. It made me think of Adrian Phillips, who is in his first year currently for the Patriots, and also Kyle Duggar, who the Patriots drafted this past season. So Williams, very similar to those players, but also about Williams is that in his first season with the Pirates, he did exceptionally well. Second team All NAL, NAL, the league that the Pirates used to be in, and fifth in the NAL in tackles in 2019. And he might be one of the more underlooked players in the IFL coming into next season.
Yeah, I think you're right. And one more pro comparison for Williams, as far as an NFL comparison, I'd say Matt Milano, outside linebacker for the Buffalo Bills. Now, obviously, we're a New England-based team. Milano plays in Buffalo, but Milano is a former Boston College Eagle. So anyone in this area, if you're a BC Eagle fan, you may remember Milano during his days at BC, but he's another guy who is a safety linebacker hybrid. He went to BC as a safety, then got a little bit bigger as an upperclassman. They moved him to linebacker. When he was coming out of college, entering the NFL, the debate was, will he be a linebacker or a safety? Well, he essentially became his own type of player because the Bills are a team that like to use the safety linebacker hybrid. It's almost like its own position. And he's been so effective in that role and in a system that fits him. And Williams is such a similar style of play. And so we've made a couple different, or three different NFL comparisons. Not bad, for a guy, playing in the IFL, trying to advance to the next level, to have three different NFL comparisons from two of the smartest analysts, in the country. So.
Yeah, and we clearly know a lot about the NFL and football in general.
We're sponsored by Bud Light. If that doesn't make you a legitimate show, then I don't know what does.
We have a sponsor. It's Bud Light, and we cannot continue to tell you how appreciative we feel and, how awesome it is to be sponsored by something, and that something is great. It's Bud Light. Leverett, we've talked about him a lot this segment in Dancer, but I just want to hit on him really quick. Some notes on him. Entering his third season with the Pirates in 2018 and 2019, he suited up for the blue and teal for the Massachusetts Pirates. And, a cool story about Dancer is that he actually played college football for a brief time with Pirates president, general manager, and founder Jawad Yateem. Dancer played at Bethune-Cookman University in Florida, and Jawad Yateem spent some time there. So the two of them got to know each other back then, and it must be cool that their relationship continues.
Yeah, and, it's interesting because, at the time, they were both active players. Now, obviously, Jawad's in a sports management role running the team, and he's a player, so it's, whether it's, a GM, a team president, a head coach, it's always interesting when, you have a coach or someone in the front office who was an active player at the same time that you were. Sometimes you might have a coach or GM who's maybe 20 years older than you. Maybe they played with your dad, but how cool is that he and Jawad were briefly teammates? But yeah, if maybe, Jawad was a quarterback on that team, maybe if he hit him in practice when Jawad was, wearing the red jersey or something, maybe that would have impacted his playing time or contract negotiations. Now Jawad is in a position to get back at him if he ever did Jawad wrong back in the day. I don't know the details of that relationship.
Neither do I. I might have to ask Jawad that
Yeah.
off the air. But Dantzler, I mean, he's the longest tenured Pirates linebacker now. So he's a true cog in the middle. And Dantzler, the most impressive thing to note on him is that in 2019, in the Pirates playoff game against the Carolina Cobras back in the NAL, Dantzler recorded 2 sacks in that game, and he became the Pirates franchise record holder for most sacks in a single game. It's a mouthful. I got it out, but
Most sacks in a single game. Say it 10 times.
I mean, perhaps that was the Pirates' last time on the field, so perhaps that performance led to this signing.
We've talked about guys being hungry. The last time he played, he crushed it, and then has to miss a year because of COVID, as did everyone. But I mean, maybe for certain players in various professional sports, if your last season before COVID was a bad one, maybe you needed the time to regroup. But for a guy like him, he was playing so well. He was playing the best football of his life, and then he had to take a year off. So you think he's not fired up heading into this season? And he's also a guy who got a taste of the NFL as a training camp player with the Packers. So, I mean, he's been around the block between playing with Jawad in college, getting a brief opportunity in the NFL, and then, being a returning player for the Pirates. Also, he's another one of the guys who was with the Pirates during their NAL days. So, while he's not new to the team, he is playing in a new league this year. And it's kind of like when we talked about the offense, we talked about how Sean Brackett won an MVP in the NAL, and now he wants to prove that he can be just as much of a beast in the IFL. For Dantzler, he's another guy who wants to say, hey, well, I dominated in the NAL. That was no coincidence. Whatever league the Pirates are in, I'm going to dominate. I'm going to play well. And, obviously he's a defensive player and a hard hitter. Maybe some opposing offensive players will lose sleep at night knowing that he's moving over to the IFL.
Yeah, and he sports, at least in 2019, he sported the number 55. And I've always really liked that number for a linebacker.
Yes.
Anywhere.
Terrell Suggs wore that number.
Another Baltimore Raven from your roots.
Yes.
So there you have it, the linebackers. 3 linebackers signed by the Pirates for 2021, including the newest member of the team, Martrell Spate. When we come back, defensive backs are on deck. This is a football show. I just used a baseball reference, but we'll take it. Leverett Ball, Oliver Nissi, defensive backs coming your way next. Working our way through episode 4 of Pirates Weekly, breaking down the defense. Oliver Nissi alongside Leverett Ball, and Leverett, we've arrived at the defensive backs, and we're going to start with a returner. Khalid Wooten has been re-signed by the Pirates for the 2021 season. It will be his 3rd season with the Pirates. And Leverett, Wooten, he appeared in just 2 games in 2018 for the Pirates, but in 2019, the Pirates were really struggling from the onset. They started out 1-4, then Wooten came over from the Arena Football League, and he joined the team, and they went on a 6-game winning streak.
Yeah, I mean, he provided a spark for the Pirates team, and he's a guy who makes everyone around him better. Both with the way he plays, but also just the way he carries himself, and he kind of took on a leadership role right off the bat. As soon as he joined the Pirates organization, and he's a guy who has had a long life in the world of professional football. He was a 2013 NFL draft pick by the Titans. He did play in 3 games for them. Then, like you said, also spent time in the Arena Football League and then played with the Pirates during their time in the NAL. And now he will suit up, obviously, for the first time as an IFL Pirate.
Yeah, and we got 4 other defensive backs to get to, but Wooten is the most tenured defensive back on the Pirates. So a lot of these guys that we're going to be talking about coming up in just a second, a lot of these guys are going to be looking at Wooten for advice and, if they have questions. So he's definitely the leader of the secondary.
Absolutely. And yeah, I mean, like I said, he's been around the block. He's gotten to the highest levels. So maybe for, some of the younger DBs on the roster who eventually want to get an NFL chance, he can kind of coach them up and, prepare them for, if they were to get that opportunity. But yeah, but you know what else? We talk about his experience, his leadership, but he can still play.
Yeah.
And he's kind of a good all-around player in the sense that, obviously he can drop back in coverage and pick off passes with the best of them. But, he's also not afraid to come up and hit someone. Some DBs, are fast, have ball skills, but maybe aren't as physical. That's not the case with him. He's willing to come up and put a stick on someone, make some hits. And yeah, I mean, he does a lot of different things well, a lot of different things to help the team win. And yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do this season.
Yeah, we got a lot of defensive backs to cover, so we're just going to keep going. And another returner for the Pirates is Al Lewis-Jean. And this guy might be a fan favorite because, he grew up in the Massachusetts area. He went to Brockton High School. Then after that, he went to Boston College, a Boston College Eagle. I know you were talking about Matt Milano in last segment.
Yes.
Another Boston College Eagle. And Lewis-Jean will be entering his second season with the team. And Leverett, what do you think it means to him being able to play professional football in his home state?
Well, yeah, there's a lot to talk about with Al Lewis-Jean. Like you said, he's played high school, college, and pro all in Massachusetts, from playing, like you said, high school football at Brockton High, college football at Boston College, and now IFL football with the Pirates. But in addition to that, he also played in the NFL with the Chicago Bears and played in 9 games for them. So in addition to all the local roots he also has pro experience. And when his time in the NFL ended, he decided to come home and continue to play locally for the Pirates, as I mentioned. And, he's been, a force in the Pirates' defensive backfield. And he and Wooten will be two of the leaders at that position. But it's so cool, though, for him, obviously as a guy who played high school and college locally, he was willing to go, wherever he needed to go to get that NFL opportunity. Because those opportunities are obviously so hard to come by. And his opportunity came in Chicago with the Bears. He obviously, probably his dream growing up was to play with the Patriots, I'm assuming. But that opportunity never came around. But he still got an opportunity to go away from home and play, like I said, NFL football for the Bears. But for him to get to come home is awesome. And, I'm sure, he has some, a lot of fans in the stands at games, and not just people who know of him from his time playing with the Pirates, but, maybe people he grew up with or relatives or friends in the area. So, yeah, that's really cool. And I think as a local guy, he's going to be, or continue to be, a fan favorite.
Yeah, and, I agree. I mean, I'm sure if I was Al Lewis-Jean, I would want to play for the Patriots as well if you get a crack in the NFL. But I mean, the Bears is a good team too. A team that has probably some of the most rich history compared to any other NFL team, and a team, I mean, over the past 30 or so years that has been known for its defense. I mean, starting in the 80s Super Bowl team with Mike Ditka, then they made a Super Bowl appearance in 2006 with a star-led defense. So it must have been really cool for him to be out in the Midwest in Chicago, a huge city, and now he gets to return home. And also to note about Lewis-Jean is that he has size. He has size. He's very long arms. He's 6'2". He's pretty thin. He's just a smidge under 200 pounds. But and when he did play for the Bears, he was a rookie. He was in his low 20s. He was in his low 20s, and now he's getting closer to the 30 years old age as you and I we both are.
It's scary.
But it's Lewis-Jean. He's still he's still competing at a very high level, and he's going to continue to do that for the Pirates in his second season with Massachusetts. Moving on, the next defensive back is Harlan Miller that we want to touch upon. Harlan Miller, a newcomer to the team that has been signed for next season, and Miller, like Lewis-Jean and like Wooten, has NFL experience. And Leverett, if you remember when I brought up in the linebacking segment, the last segment, I brought up that trivia question where I said, which Pirate has the second most NFL experience? And I slighted Harlan Miller. He actually has 9 NFL career games. a former 6th-round pick by the Cardinals. So, Harlan Miller, my apologies.
Unacceptable. He's probably going to be very unhappy when he sees this video, although you did take accountability for your actions.
I did.
Yeah, it's a great moment there. I think that was a role model-esque way in which you accept your responsibility there. You didn't try and deflect the blame to anyone else. But all jokes aside, though, yeah. I mean, what a resume he has. Like you said, played 9 NFL games, also was an All-American at Southeastern Louisiana. So, he has a great football resume. And, I mean, look at his defense. Whether it's linebackers, defensive backs, there's a lot of NFL experience on this defense.
Yeah.
He's another one. He's another guy, though, that, like other guys on this defense who have NFL experience, this isn't just a retirement job for him. He can still play. Mm-hmm. And he's going to be a force along with, Wooten and Lewis Jean. If anything, the Pirates have a good problem on their hands where they have maybe a little bit too much talent on defense, and maybe they might have to put one or two of their, players with, impressive football resumes on the sideline at times. That's a good problem to have, though. Certainly better to have too much talent than not enough. I think he's another guy who's really itching to get this season started, and I'm excited to see what he can do.
The 4th defensive back we're going to talk about, who is another newcomer to the Pirates, is Arian Maxey Penton, a former player at the University of Missouri, where he was named All-SEC first team as a senior in 2016. And Leverett, I mean, Penton, he comes to the Pirates, he's a little undersized at 5'9", 185 pounds, but he's definitely one of the more hungry players coming to this team.
No question. And to reiterate what you said, he had very, very impressive credentials as a college football player. First of all, he started at, of all places, Mizzou as a true freshman. Not a redshirt freshman, but as a true freshman, an 18-year-old just out of high school. He was a starter in one of the best conferences in college football. And then, like you said, first team All-SEC as a defensive back as a senior. I mean, that's a very, very impressive college football resume. He was overlooked in the NFL draft, not because of college production, but because of the measurables. Like you said, with him being 5'9", 185. In scouting in the NFL, they look a lot at not just college stats, but, height, weight, 40-yard dash, number of bench press reps, things like that. And that's where he came up short in the eyes of NFL scouts. Now, for him, he's ticked off. He thinks, okay, forget how tall I am. I went up against the top competition in the country, arguably, and dominated. And so, like you said, he's hungry. He's a guy who put up numbers good enough to get drafted into the NFL, feels like he should be in the NFL, and was overlooked. So, yeah, I mean, he has to be itching to get the season started. And sometimes with undersized players, they actually have more of a mean streak than other guys because they're so used to being overlooked, and they're so used to guys going at them because of their size that they kind of like I said, they've developed that kind of protective, combative mentality. And yeah, I mean, he's going to be a feisty one on defense for the Pirates. And yeah, I think he's going to be a great addition. He's obviously a young player. There's a lot of veteran experience in the defensive backfield, but I think he's probably the best up-and-coming young defensive back on the team.
Yeah, and we hit on that he played college football in the SEC. And when you think SEC, you think of LSU, you think of Alabama. And I was talking to Maxey Penton off the air, off the air. And by the way, he's extremely excited to come to Massachusetts. He actually grew up in St. Louis in Missouri, so he's been in Missouri for the bulk of his life, and he's excited for his journey to come to Massachusetts. But pretty cool thing he told me when he was in the SEC. Can you guess the wide receiver, the toughest wide receiver he went up against in the SEC?
There have been a lot of.
I'll give you a hint.
There have been a lot of big dogs who played in the SEC.
He was one of those Alabama receivers. I'm sure Pirates fans and all football fans can think of a lot of those Alabama receivers, especially in the last decade or so that have come out.
Who is it?
It's Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper, I mean, he came into the NFL, I believe he was a top 5 pick out of Alabama. I mean, some of the other receivers that I think of, Alabama receivers, are Julio Jones and, I mean, most recently Henry Ruggs and Jerry Jeudy. But, I mean, Amari Cooper still performing at an elite rate in the NFL, now a member of the Cowboys. But, yeah, Maxie Penton, he said that was the toughest receiver that he went up against. He said he was the entire package, speed, route running, technique. It was a handful, and he gave Amari Cooper his praise. So I just thought that was a cool tidbit to throw in there.
I can imagine it would not be easy. Although he did better against Amari Cooper than either of us would have, I think.
Oh yeah, we would still be. He would, as they say, take our jock straps off.
Yes, no question. I cannot think of a more eloquent and accurate way to describe it than that.
So Arian Maxie Penton, a newcomer, the last defensive back that the Pirates have signed, and this will round out the defense, and it is Santos Ramirez, another defensive back, another newcomer to this team. And Santos Ramirez last played in the XFL, another one of those XFL players. Earlier in 2020, played for the Seattle XFL team. He also had a stint briefly as an undrafted free agent with the New York Jets. And Ramirez joins this team, Leverett, and perhaps most notable about Ramirez is his height. He's 6'2", and he's also, when he played college football at the University of Arkansas, he was a captain in both his junior and senior seasons. So another hungry player coming to the Pirates.
Yeah, and Arkansas is another pretty solid college program, and they have developed a fair number of NFL guys. And for him, probably another guy who feels overlooked, but very good size. At 6'2", for a defensive back, and now he's just trying to find a consistent home in professional football. He did briefly have that NFL training camp experience with the Jets. Then played in the XFL. Obviously, the XFL, they've kind of been in and out of business. They didn't complete their last season. So he's a guy who's bounced around. But he comes to Massachusetts where we have a loaded defensive backfield. And every single guy on the roster at the defensive back position is going to have to fight to get onto the field because we have so many different guys with former NFL experience and experience playing in the highest levels of college football. And so it's going to be a challenge for him and all of those guys, but I think it's going to make all of them better. And, if you can stick and get on the field in Massachusetts, as a defensive back, I think that bodes well for your future. And, I think Santos Ramirez is certainly a great addition, and I think, he's someone who has a bright future ahead of him.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. You said bodes well. That's what I was thinking as well because, we talked, even last week, we talked a lot about the defensive line. We hyped up the defensive line, but the IFL, we keep talking about how it's such a passing league and, you really need defensive backs to offset that. It's kind of, I know we keep referencing the NFL, but it's so relatable.
Yeah.
The largest, currently and for a long time, the NFL, the largest football league, the NFL. And when I was watching the Super Bowl last year with the Chiefs and the 49ers, I just kept thinking about how the Chiefs have so much speed.
Oh, yes.
With Tyreek Hill and the other guys there. But, professional football is really turning into a passing league. We've seen it grow and grow and grow, and it probably might even grow a little bit more. And I just think for the Pirates, it really bodes well to have this much talent in the defensive backfield.
Definitely. And there's more of a crossover between the indoor game and the NFL game. The indoor game, whether it's the IFL or the Pirates previously, the NAL or the AFL of old, all of those leagues have been leagues with shorter fields, lots of passing, and lots of scoring. The NFL, on the other hand, back in the day was more of a smash mouth, run the ball between the tackles type of league. But like you said, now that it's becoming more of a passing league, there's more of a similarity in style of play between the NFL and the IFL and other indoor leagues, which means I think it will be easier for guys who want to advance to the NFL when they get that opportunity. It's more of a seamless transition. They're better prepared, and I think this is the perfect place for anyone trying to build up their football resume a little bit and eventually get an NFL opportunity. Like we talked about, playing in the IFL, a pass-heavy league, but also, on a specific IFL roster like the Pirates that has so much talent, so much competition, and so much previous NFL experience.
Yeah, and the Pirates, I mean, in New England, in the state of Massachusetts, not just for football, but for all sports. I mean, this is a sports hub. This is a sports destination for.
Yes.
There's so much success in this region, not only football but other sports. And I agree with you. The IFL is the league to be in, other than the NFL, I would say.
Yes.
At this juncture, Leverett, we broke down the defense. We broke down the offense last week. In total, 24 players, 25 players now. We expect that number, it might go up a little bit. And Leverett, we are going to take a quick break. When we come back, we have one more player to get to, actually, and it's a special teams player, the Pirates kicker for 2021. We're also going to highlight the Pirates defensive coordinator. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us. We are now in the last segment of episode 4 of Pirates Weekly. Leverett Ball and myself, Oliver Nissi, taking you through this show. And in next week's episode, in episode 5, we're going to be talking to Pirates kicker Gabriel Rui. And Gabriel Rui, in the offseason, he spends his time in Oklahoma. So we're going to be on a Zoom call for episode 5, Leverett and myself, along with Gabriel Rui. But Leverett, he's the Pirates kicker for 2021, and that's who we're talking about next. And Leverett, a college football conference that we haven't talked about, I believe we haven't talked about yet, is the Big 12, and that's where Gabriel Rui spent his college days.
Yeah, I mean, and he put up together some really good numbers there. One of the most accurate kickers in program history. He never missed a point after attempt. And also, playing in the Big 12, he played in giant venues. So he won't be intimidated, playing in various arenas across the country, as a professional. He's played in front of huge crowds at the college level. I think it will be a little bit of an adjustment for him, moving on to the indoor game, playing on shorter fields and, playing with, more narrow goalposts. But I think he can handle it. And, he's a guy who has a lot of confidence heading in his first season with the Pirates after all the success he had at Kansas. And, sometimes the specialist positions get overlooked, but they're incredibly important. It might not be as flashy kicking as it is to play quarterback or be a leading receiver on a team. But sometimes a game or even your season can be decided by a kicker's ability to hit a kick, in a clutch situation. So the Pirates obviously know how important it is to have a reliable kicker, and I think they've found one in Rui.
Yeah, and I think he's really becoming better as he grows older. Mm-hmm. And this is going to be his first opportunity at the professional level. And one thing to note about Rui, and again, we're going to talk to him next week in episode 5 of Pirates Weekly, but one thing to note is that he had a stint with the Kansas City Chiefs in the rookie minicamp in 2019, and I got the opportunity to talk to him off the air, and he told me that he learned a lot from current Chiefs kicker Harrison Butker, one of the best NFL kickers in the game right now. And another one of those examples where you spend time at the NFL level and you just soak up all that experience, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And obviously when you meet someone who's had that level of success and been to the highest level of football, you try to learn as much as you can. And so I hope that experience rubbed off on him, and that can translate into him being money for the Pirates at the kicker position and being able to hit consistently.
Yeah, and one more thing to note on Rui, and that is, we talked about J.D. Griggs and Reggie Howard. Rui is another junior college player. His first 2 years of college, he kicked at a community college in Oklahoma, his home state. And then in his junior and senior years, he moved up the ranks to Kansas. So another guy who's come a long way on his football journey. And the Pirates, I mean, the way he's going right now, Gabriel Rui, I don't see the Pirates being his last stop.
Yes. Well, and, some guys, they have to go to JUCO before they're ready for college football. And then they, eventually advance from JUCO to college, have success in college, and go pro. I mean, Cam Newton once played junior college football. So, let's not look down upon junior college football. There are sometimes guys, Aaron Rodgers, another guy who played a little junior college football before he went to Cal and then obviously the Green Bay Packers. So, JUCO is the route that some people need to take. They need to start, from the bottom. Like Drake would say, started from the bottom. Now we hear dad joke, but I mean, it worked out for Rui. Obviously had a great career at Kansas, like we said, and I think he's going to be on point for the Pirates. I think he's going to be an effective weapon for them. Although you don't want your kicker to do too well. You want to score touchdowns. You don't want to have to rely on your kicker every single drive. I think Rui, when called upon, will do the job, but I think that, I'm hoping that the Pirates will not need to rely on their kicker as much as the Patriots have this season. I mean, like, Nick Folk, I feel like every time the Patriots have the ball, they're either punting or having Nick Folk kick a field goal. So, with some of the offensive weapons that the Pirates have, I don't think they will be as reliant on their kicking game as the Patriots were. But nonetheless, whether it's Patriots comparisons, pop culture dad jokes, however you want to slice it, I think Rui is the right guy for the job.
I do too, and we're going to learn more about him when we talk to him next week, as will you, Pirates Nation. That is all the players on the Pirates roster for 2021, and before we head out for this episode, I want to talk about the Pirates defensive coordinator. That's Rayshon Kaiser. In last week, Leverett, we talked about the head coach and Patrick Pass and the offensive coordinator in Chris Thompson. And Kaiser, before joining the Pirates, he was originally going to be the defensive coordinator for 2020. The season didn't happen. But in 2019, he was the defensive coordinator for the Bismarck Bucks in the IFL.
Yes.
So he has been in this IFL league before. Just like how Chris Thompson earlier last decade was also in the IFL, so that's definitely going to help out head coach Patrick Pass.
Yeah, I mean he's coached in the IFL before. Also, he has a lot of experience in the indoor game as a player. And he was quite a defensive back in a few different indoor leagues, including the original AFL. And he was a ball hawk. He was oftentimes a team leader in interceptions, whether it was playing in the AFL, playing in China like he did for a little bit. And wherever he's gone, he's been a ball hawk. And I think, with a coach like that who understands the value of causing turnovers on defense and then some of the ball hawks that the Pirates currently have in their defensive backfield, I think that this could be a season in which the Pirates intercept a lot of passes.
Yeah, he's definitely gonna help out the Pirates defensive backs with his tutelage of the game. He spent a lot of years, as you said, in professional indoor football. And Kaiser, also to note, he's only 35 years old, so he's been through a lot as a person, as a professional football player. He's still young. I mean, another Patriot comparison, but Tom Brady, I believe, is he 43 or something like that?
200.
He's still playing, and Kaiser,
he's like 25 years younger than Tom Brady at this point. But it goes to show. But like you said, he's had all that experience and still not that old. Still has, I think, a bright future ahead of him. He could possibly be, an IFL head coach someday. Obviously the Pirates are in good hands with Coach Pass, but he's a guy who, at this point in his career, is a defensive coordinator, but maybe down the road someday, even if it's not with the Pirates, maybe another organization could be a head coach.
Yeah.
Or maybe, a defensive backs coach in the NFL. Who knows? But like you said, he is a relatively young guy for how much experience he's had as both a coach and player, and I think he has a bright future ahead of him. We've talked about some of the young players on this roster and how they have a bright future ahead of them as players. I think he has a very bright future ahead of him in his coaching career.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And he's another. We jokingly talked about how if someone gets hurt, we're going to hop in there and we're going to put on the pads, and we're probably not going to do well.
Right.
He's someone who, if for some reason they run out of defensive backs, he can step in there and probably record an interception or two.
Yeah, no question. I think as far as like emergency players who work for the team, I think he and Jawad would be near the top of the list.
That'd be cool to watch.
Yeah, guys to put in if a bunch of people got injured, because both of them actually played professionally before taking on their current positions with the team. But yeah, I think if either of us had to play this season, that would be a very, very bad sign for the Pirates.
Two things to note about Kaiser before we wrap up the show. He is the Arena Football League single season record holder for 16 interceptions in a season.
Oof.
And he also finished the third most interceptions in Arena Football League history. I believe that number was 62. Rayshon Kaiser, the defensive coordinator for the Pirates. We brought you the defense this episode. Leverett, that's a wrap on episode 4. Again, Pirates Nation episode 5 will be coming out next Friday. And we'll be talking with Gabriel Rui, the kicker for the team. We're going to learn a lot more about him. We're excited for that. Again, you can find us on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And also, Leverett, I'll let you take the reins on signing off. This was the first official episode in studio with Bud Light as our sponsor.
Yes. History has been made. Honestly, this is a moment that maybe brought a little bit of a tear to my eye. But, what just occurred to me, obviously there are a lot of colleges in Massachusetts. And like I said earlier, this is probably the best beer of all time. But it's an adult beverage. So any students in the area, if you're under 21, like I said, don't even think about drinking until you're of age. Also, though, for any part I left out, for any upperclassmen who are of age to drink, don't crack open a Bud Light until after you've finished your homework. Because, if you want to be a doctor or lawyer someday, you have to do well in school. If you party too much and get bad grades and, all that, then you end up talking about sports for a living, like the two of us. So don't end up like us. Wait until after you finish your homework to crack open a beer, and don't start cracking them open at all until you're 21. So again, some words of wisdom, but how cool is it to have a sponsor, especially one like Bud Light?
And Leverett, I have a strong inkling that when you get home after this show, you're going to crack open a Bud Light yourself.
Honestly, there's a Bud Light right in front of me. It's been so tempting, when you have the best beer of all time, like right in front of you. But, I'm such a professional. I don't drink on the job. So,
as am I.
It's all about picking the appropriate time to turn up. So
that's what it's all about. Responsibility.
Exactly. And again, enjoy Bud Light, but enjoy it responsibly. Don't be a doofus. So, yeah.
You heard it here first. Do not be a doofus, as Leverett Ball says. Team insider and also sideline reporter for the team, Oliver Nissi, team insider. We will see you next week. And again, Gabriel Rui will be joining us. So long, Pirates Nation.